Now I want to talk about the diminished scale. This is a scale that a lot of people are sort of scared of and confused about. So I'll try and clarify this as clearly as I can. It's a symmetrical scale, completely symmetrical. So that means the pattern or this design of it keeps repeating forever. And there's two ways you can look at it. You either start with a whole step and then you have a half step, and then that just continues. Or the opposite, where you start with a half step and then a whole step, and then it continues. So let me play the A diminished scale, starting with a whole step. It sounds like this. It's a cool sounding scale. Like if you use it the right way, it's really sweet. So let me play it on one string to make it really clear, and we'll mention the intervals as we go along. So if I'm starting on the 1 for A, then we have a major second, we have a minor third, and this is something that's not unusual yet. All these notes are part of the minor scale. We have the fourth, we're still inside the usual sound. We have a flat 5, which is sort of the bluesy sound. But now things change a bit. Now we get a minor 6 or flat 6 note, and then a major 6, and then lastly a major 7th note, which seems a little strange over a minor chord, and then the root note. So in total we have 8 notes, and that's unusual for most scales. They either have 5, 6, or 7. But this one has 8. One more. Now, the key is to know how to use it. So as I indicated, that we have a lot of notes that are the same as regular minor scales. It's just towards the end it changes a bit. But that scale can be used very well over a minor chord. Now, the other way is if you play over a 7 chord, then you would most often start the opposite way. You start with a half step and then a whole step. And just to illustrate the power of this and the usefulness, if I play that same scale that I showed you, it's important that you get the sound in your head as well. Like it sounds very exotic that way. But that one that fit with a minor chord, if I go to the 4 chord in a bluesy type of tune that we often go to a D7 in this case, if I play the exact same scale, if we look at it from an interval perspective or a scale design perspective, now it's actually starting with a half step from D. So that's an example of using the diminished scale over a 7 chord starting with a half step, and then go back to A minor, it starts with a whole step. So by using that one diminished scale, I'm able to play just fine over an A minor and a D7 chord. So now let's play over this backing track that goes between A minor and D7. And I'll start out by playing just the scale itself for a while, and then I'll switch to playing some more real world playing with bluesy licks, and I'll throw in the diminished scale here and there just to kind of highlight it. So there I try to highlight the diminished scale in a few interesting ways, hopefully. A few key points is that you can probably hear that these two sound very outside. So the flat 5 together with the minor 6 or flat 6, they create the kind of a weird sound. But mostly all the other notes are quite inside, so to speak. They fit quite well, even that major 7th. Just have to remember that you want to focus on chord tones again. So in that case, that's the 1, 3, 5 for the 1 chord for A minor. There's still 1, 3, 5, but it's the minor 3rd now. But the problem is the 5 is not in the diminished scale. But here is where you have to make a choice. When you use the diminished scale, you don't have to use all the 8 notes. You can still use the 5 in there. You're just now switching to more of a pentatonic sound. And then if you want to do the diminished thing, you can go. It's all about the phrases that you create with these intervals. So I think you should view the diminished scale as a tasteful little tool that you can use as long as you use it wisely and not overdoing the runs, because if it start being too much, it sounds very much like just the diminished scale going up and down, and it sounds weird and doesn't fit in. But I think it has its use in bluesy style of music if you do it the right way. Now, another issue with the diminished scale is it can be hard for your fingers to find the notes, and you can get lost easily because even though it sounds simple that it's symmetrical, in fact it can be quite hard to find good fingerings for your fingers. So I want to highlight 2 fingerings that really helped me make the diminished scale a better friend, so to speak. So the first one uses 4 notes per string. So I'm going to be playing that A minor, or the A diminished that starts with a whole step. But I'll start on the lowest note. So I'm going to start on the minor 6, and then next half step, whole step, and then a half step. So you see those are 4 notes in sequence. That's a pattern that you should remember. So what we do next is we take the same pattern, switch to the next string, and we have the same pattern available 1 fret this direction. And then it repeats. Same here. Where it changes a bit, it's here. Because of the tuning differences between the G string and the B string, you have to move it 1 fret extra this way. And then back here, the same pattern. And that makes it possible to play it a little bit more fluid and not get stuck in technical difficulties, because I find it's quite easy to do slides. You can play it fairly fast if you want to that way, because I'm sliding a lot to create these movements. Even if I go from a high note and down, I pick 3 notes, and then I slide. And the other way, I start with picking the note and then slide up. And I usually do a hammer on the last note. So how I often use that scale is if I do a little run like that, I want to come back in on a good note. So that would mean the minor 3rd of A. Somehow get into that sound of the progression. So use it as an, that's how I view it. One way to use it is as a tool to move between your usual licks. You know, I went between two bluesy licks and just had that moving diminished thing in between. Now, the other pattern that I find is very useful is one that looks like this. And since it's symmetrical, as we can see, it leads to a lot of repetition. And that's what's good about this one. And it lets your hand stay in one position so you don't have to jump around so much. And the way I'm playing this is we're basically creating two little patterns on the strings. So I'm starting on the major 6 here, and then a major 7th, and then the 1. So I often do hammer on at the end. So I'm ending on the root note, and then on the next string, the pattern is different. It's like this. So that's the 2nd, the minor 3rd, and the 4th. Now on the next string, I'll play the same one as I did on the D string, the one I started on. And on the E string, I'll play the same one as I did on the G string. So you can see that we're alternating between two different finger patterns. I view them as little shapes. That's a little shape to me. The same one is available here. And then that second one. So then you can play easily through the whole thing. And the cool thing with this one in particular is that one benefit, of course, it's easier to play in one spot, but it's also the spot where you happen to be a lot when you play lead guitar. It's that area of the neck that's box 1 on the pentatonic, and we use it for blues scale. That diminished pattern is available right inside there, so you can then practice getting used to using some of these notes as you're working on blues licks in this position. And the key thing is to, of course, not overdo it, but it's a scale that's worth exploring because it has a lot of potential, and it can easily create some very interesting sounds and feelings and emotions out of it. And since it's symmetrical, you can explore it a lot and find, wow, I could do this, I could do this. You should spend time exploring the patterns that are created through the diminished scale on the fretboard, and find ways to play the scale that you think are easy and comfortable. But these two patterns that I showed you, I find they're very useful, and I hope you can take advantage of them as well.